ordinance appropriation, or budget appropriation ordinance hearing. Mike, take the roll.
Commissioner Vanderschaft.
Here.
Commissioner Schobel.
Here.
Commissioner Morrow.
Here.
Commissioner Fiewiger.
Here.
Commissioner Luekehans.
Here.
President Kelly.
Here. Mike, your staff report.
I have nothing further to add to what has been previously discussed. When the subject comes up under new business at the regular meeting, prior to action, I can provide an overview and of the last Finance Subcommittee meeting that was held, with the minutes of which are attached to your suggested motions and discussion items document in front of you. But subsequent to that, as far as public hearing purposes are concerned, nothing further to add.
Any other comment? Okay, I need a motion to close the public hearing. Oh, public comment? Anybody? Second time? Anybody? Okay. Now I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Mike, take the roll.
Commissioner Vanderschaft.
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel.
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger.
Yes.
Commissioner Luekehans.
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. Okay, now I'd like to call call to order the November board meeting of the Wheaton Park Board of Commissioners. Mike, take the roll.
Commissioner Vanderschaft.
Here.
Commissioner Schobel.
Here.
Commissioner Morrow.
Here.
Commissioner Fiewiger.
Here.
Commissioner Luekehans.
Here.
President Kelly.
Here. And Mike, we have a presentation tonight.
Yeah, I'd like to invite Director of Planning Rob Spurl to the dais for a presentation this evening.
Okay, with us today is Scott Fleming. Scott, if you join me. Scott's project was to create a vegetated green roof model at the Lincoln Marsh. And what this will do is create a convenient place for young participants in our environmental programs to learn about that type of technology. So we're glad to have that, and we're glad that Scott was able to do that for us. So I'd like to provide him with this certificate of recognition and the gratitude of the board for him.
Okay, the consent agenda. Before I ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, I had some substantial changes in the meeting minutes from October 21st with respect to a couple of construction items. So I'd like to see that item pulled so I could work with staff to get the minutes corrected. So I'm asking to approve the...
Move the table.
All right, so that's item E.
Move the table item, or here, move to approve the consent agenda, absent item E.
Second.
Okay. Mike, that's a roll call.
Commissioner Vanderschaft.
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel.
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger.
Yes.
Commissioner Luekehans.
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. First item, unfinished business. I need a motion on the ordinance for the lease agreement.
Move to approve the lease agreement with Computer System Innovations.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Yeah, Ken.
So the only termination part in here has to do around 2015. Is there a reason why we picked that date? So that for anyone to get out of this lease with notice. Is there a reason why we picked 2015?
No.
Mike, tell me if I'm wrong, I think this was what the tenant requested. The tenant requested a one-way out, and we said, no, if you're gonna have an out, we're gonna have an out too. This was at the tenant request. So I think it was just a three-year date that he picked, not anything specific or scientific by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, would we?
Ken, go ahead.
I can add one thing to that. Phil's absolutely correct. The reason for that is he's contemplating rolling out some new software. He felt that if he did that, he might need a larger facility to house new staff, and that would be at a 3-year point is what he assumed So that's if we're looking for a specific reason on why he thought 3 years, that's why. He feels he either may grow or may not grow in 3 years' time.
Okay, and we ourselves, if we want to expand, we don't feel we need an out at another point?
I'm comfortable with the 3-year point.
Okay. I talked to Mike and I talked to Steve Adams today. The only thing I noticed in the lease was, did anybody else notice a 5% discount for paying the rent all up front? Yeah, I thought that was a big discount, and we hadn't seen that before, and I asked Steve what his opinion was on that. My personal opinion is, I think that's a big discount for having the lease paid all up front. I think that, you know, maybe 2% would be more in line with that, but I didn't know what anybody else felt like. Yeah, Kim?
Well, we had been talking about a discount. What had it been?
It was undetermined
Oh.
until the final negotiation meeting, but it certainly is, I think it's one item that can certainly be dealt with by this board and brought back to the potential tenant if there's disagreement on the discount amount. It was the tenant's suggestion, and at the negotiation table, the two legal
So,
talkers there had a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's over 5%, right? I mean,
it's
like
about
four-
five, it's
$4
right,
grand and change.
yeah, on an $80,000 lease, so it's 5%.
And I'll be honest, it's not like, I guess here's the issue. We don't need the money. I mean, we're not making 5% on our money.
Absolutely.
So we're making maybe a point. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me at that number. The only thing you are saving is you're saving the possibility that he, you know, doesn't pay rent at some point. But I think given the fact, if he has the ability to pay up front, he sure as heck has the ability to pay monthly. It doesn't seem like a realistic number to me either.
My suggestion is that we approve the lease tonight, changing the 5% to 2% for early payment.
And then if he comes back and says no, what happens? What's our next step?
We have a meeting in a month.
I know he wants to close, and, you know, we just didn't, I personally didn't see the 5% before now. I don't know if I missed it in another document, or,
I don't think that had been determined what the amount was.
you know, and, you know, I asked Steve Adams, said, we already committed to the 5%, and Steve said that, no, he would feel comfortable taking that, taking our concern and saying, we only want to do 2% for early payment, and then the tenant has the option just to pay monthly and save the 2%.
I would support that.
I would amend my motion to modify the lease, so it would be a 2% discount for early payment.
Second.
Any other discussion? My call the roll.
Commissioner Vandershaft,
Yes?
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger,
Yes.
Commissioner Lukey-Hines,
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. Okay, new business, item 1. Whoops. Oh, I'm sorry. Old business, item 2, the hotel concept and the investigation. I need a motion. Mark?
Move to cease the investigation into the hotel ground lease concept.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Mike?
Phil, please, all in favor.
What? We can do all in favor, right?
I'm asking Phil. Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
New business. New business, item 1, I need a motion for setting fees at the Counselor Zoo.
Move to accept the staff's recommendation of $5 for non-resident adults, $4 non-resident seniors. Keep the fees for resident the same at 0, and children, resident and non-resident at 0.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Phil?
What research have we done to show that we can actually, that this is not going to reduce the amount of people and the income. Have we done any research, any market research? Any surveys, anything?
We have not conducted any formal survey, but I can tell you that, you know, I probably more than anyone was concerned when we first instituted the admissions fee back in 2010. And we got almost no pushback on it at all. In fact, I heard more people say it's about time than I heard anybody be negative. And you know, looking at the zoos on this memo, you look at something like in Sunset Zoo in Kansas, it gets half the attendance we do. If you look at the big picture, they're charging adults and seniors each 4, kids 2. 2 adults and 2 kids come, look at the big picture, that's $12. If we have 2 adults come and 2 kids, it's gonna be 10. That's a pretty good value, I think, if you look at the big picture, especially sitting in an area where, you know, Wheaton, where I think that's pretty much to be expected. So really, I would be surprised if we get much pushback at all, to be honest, with the kind of comments that.
So we're talking 100% increase for senior non-residents and a 66% increase for regular non-residents. That's our percentages?
Yes.
And this board sat here and a lot of us didn't want to go $2 on Arrowhead, which was a 4% increase with no understanding of what the real effect of this would be. You know, my fear is that we end up reducing the amount of people who come here because we're doubling this, and now we have an increased money, we've stayed even or lost money. I don't feel comfortable that doubling senior non-residents and 66% increase for adult non-residents is something that we have any knowledge of what it's going to affect. And hence, if we're gonna, I'm for a $1 increase on both. I've always been for sustainability of this project. I've always been, yes, we should charge somewhat, but I think we're just saying, okay, let's do $2. And we don't know what the effect is gonna be, and we're just hoping.
Kim?
So, back to the envelope calculations here, we would have to see a 40% decrease in attendance, and we would still be at the same revenue point as before. I don't think this increase would cause a 40% decrease in attendance. I support this. Last year, what was the proposal last year that failed? Was that $1?
Was it $1?
I think it was a
Yeah, I think we were at $1.
Much as with the golf course, where we are raising rates because of the new areas that have been opened, we have 3 additional areas that either have been opened or improved. And under the same concept, this is a good time to do this as well. If we wanted to play around with it, I'd actually recommend we go child rates and we lower the adult rates. But I do support an increase in the fees for the zoo.
Right.
Yeah, I was in favor of a $5 fee when we initiated fees in 2010, and we backed off on that at that time, thinking that it was too much. I don't think the $2 fee increase, or $3 for adults and $2 for seniors, is outlandish, seeing how the taxpayers of Wheaton are the ones supporting this facility. I don't think it's going to have a real negative impact on the number of Christmas trees we sell or pumpkins we sell. Or the donation box certainly isn't overflowing with donations from these non-residents who show up at our facility that our tax dollars are supporting. I think it's reasonable. I'm a member of Cosley Zoo. I pay a membership even though I'm a resident. And they could pay a membership fee and not have to pay this $5 each time they visit. They could pay a $30 membership fee, and it's cheap at half the price. I'm a member of Brookfield Zoo, and it's well over $100 that I pay for that. So
We're not carrying this.
well, okay, I know we're not, but
Okay, just so we're clear.
we have initiated some new facilities there with the Bobcat exhibit, the bird aviary, the butterfly exhibit. We've done some nice things at that facility. Our residents certainly are going to benefit from that, and the non-residents who visit are going to benefit as well. I'm in favor.
Just so we're clear, we don't get the money for the pumpkins and Christmas trees.
Indirect.
That does not come to us.
Indirectly it does.
Correct. But it does not come to us, it does not go to operations.
And we're trying to cut down on the expenses of our operation, and this is one way that the staff have come to us and said, this is the way to do it.
That's it. That's not expenses, that's revenues.
Anybody else? All right, my opinion is the same as it kind of was on the Arrowhead Golf Course rates. I'm gonna go with the staff recommendation with the caveat that I don't support yearly increases. And I don't wanna see, I won't vote for another increase next year. If we're gonna raise rates because of new facilities and improvements at the zoo, I'm fine with that on the staff recommendation. But I won't support raising rates every year, so you need to know this is the only rate increase I'll be supporting. I think the Cosley Foundation's recommendation was they wouldn't need another increase till after 2015, isn't that what was in their memo? So, you know, I'll go with the staff's recommendation, but only that we're not raising rates again next year. And if we do have a significant drop-off, I may be pushing for reducing the rates. Anybody else?
I was on that same front too, that's a good point where we don't have to go back, we don't wanna have to raise it every year. So do it once for a couple, 3 years, and I think it's gonna set better in the long run, to be honest.
Yeah, but you also don't want to go back and decrease the rates, which in turn, if it's not marketed properly, is going to look like the value of Cosley is decreasing. I agree with what Phil says, and I will support staff's recommendation, but in the future, I'd like to see something as it relates to check-ins and dollars and a more formulated plan of to really why. And, you know, shame on us for not asking you guys earlier to put together a survey or something that would back up your increase. But
Here's what I'm afraid of, and I know what the vote's gonna do, but here. Amoco did the whole 5 cents on the use of credit cards, you have to pay 5 cents more a gallon a decade ago. It took them they got rid of it immediately. It took them 5 years before people didn't understand that that was still one of their fees. They lost a ton of business, and you know, you can't cut back. People are still gonna remember those people you lost are not coming back. And that's my feeling.
Anybody else? Mike, call the roll.
Commissioner Vanderschaft,
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger,
yes,
Commissioner Lukihan,
No.
President Kelly.
Yes. New business item 2, 2013 funding approval for changing a 32-hour per week part-time athletic supervisor position to a full-time salary position with benefits. Need a motion?
I move approval of the recommendation from staff.
second.
Okay, discussion. Kim?
I got some questions on this.
Yes,
Okay.
myself or Brad King will answer.
Okay, so they center around what would be new versus what is being continued. Right now it's part-time. So what are we adding if we make this a full-time position?
Go ahead.
Basically, with the Central Athletic Center going online, we need to concentrate on scheduling the building new programs that goes in that facility. Our current programs are currently increasing, such as the Wheaton Wings. We have 4 additional teams. We're up to 19 for that. And 2 years ago, we were at 8 teams. So we keep on increasing in the amount of staff hours needed to conduct these programs. Facility rentals went up the last couple of years that need more attention. We added the Wheaton Wings soccer tournament that had 116 teams last year. That was another thing that was necessary, so needs more staff time to conduct it. And it's about customer service too. We're so spread out now. We doubled our fall travel baseball league. Everything is growing at a big rate for us in the athletic division that we are in need of this.
So this person would be the equal to Brad, Ryan, and Jason?
It would be equal to Ryan and Jason.
Oh, okay.
Ran overseas.
Okay, got it. And so it's stated in here that the budget can handle it, but there's a note that all salaries have been taken out of this revenue. So I don't quite understand how we're supposed to make this this determination if expenses and net income then are not including salaries.
You know, all
If I
of us-
may, I'm sorry, if I made a confusing statement, what Mary Beth is saying in that statement is that the allocation of full-time salaries a percentage allocation of full-time salaries, Brad and his team started being assessed to these programs as part of our sustainability efforts at that year. So you're seeing the effect of additional full-time salaries that used to be paid for via the property tax that are now being paid for via program fees. So that's why you see an increase in revenue, but an erosion of your net, because we have reduced our reliance on the property tax and on our athletic programs because we can support the administrators who run those programs via fees and charges.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Just a couple quick comments. The athletic programs that the district's offering today versus 6 years ago when I was around have greatly expanded. The acquisition of Hubble Middle School is just going to be, something in the future that, we don't know what its potential is yet, and I think it's going to be pretty great. I think what staff are starting to see is that it's getting more and more difficult to find volunteers, and so they have to work harder and longer at getting volunteers to help out with these sport programs. I think we're finding that parents are a little more difficult today than they were back when, and that takes a lot of time out of their already busy schedules to deal with difficult parents. I commend the staff. The reason why I asked for the breakdown of who was doing what is that I really wanted to see if there was going to be a balance and there was going to be a need for a fourth person. And I feel that the staff has provided me with that information, and I feel very comfortable with it.
Anybody else? I call the roll.
Commissioner Vanderschaft,
Yes,
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow,
Yes?
Commissioner Fiewiger.
Yes?
Commissioner Lukey-Hans,
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. Next item, a motion to fund for changing a 32-hour part-time Parks and Planning Administration position to a full-time position with benefits. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll-
Okay. Discussion?
This position, Larry, I think your memo, or one of the memos said, was assigned under you a couple of years ago, that it wasn't, this permitting responsibility was not under your department?
Correct.
Until
Part-
this- till-
part of it.
Until, where was it before you?
It was in administration.
Okay, and how long has it been with you?
Approximately, this would be our third year.
Okay, what was the effect, I guess I would ask the administration, what was the, when we took it out of the administration and brought it to Larry, what was the, did we change the amount of people or the amount of man hours when we took it out of administration? I mean, I guess my question is, we added this position to Larry's responsibility, and I don't really have a problem with the addition of the full-time here. But I guess I'm trying to figure out, if this person is so busy, what did we do when we took him or her out of administration? What did that do to our administration budget?
If I may answer.
That's the question.
Go ahead.
Shortly after the period of time where we occupied the DuPage County Historical Museum, jointly as our administration office as well as operating the museum for DuPage County, is when I shifted those responsibilities. And that was due to the fact that the front desk at our administration center picked up the additional responsibilities of being the receptionist for the museum as well as general administration reception. So the addition of that piece of the operation, I think, is where you can find where that added money is.
And when we talk about the amount of money that we've saved at the museum, do we talk about that as a cost against that or not? That additional salary? Because I mean, really, it's getting charged against Larry. To me, it's not really Larry's responsibility. It wasn't, I mean, it's never been Larry's responsibility. We've taken it out of administration, And we've said to the public, hey, we made all this money or saved all this money by going to the historical museum, and my question is, you know, are we including this additional salary that, in that calculation? Because to me it is.
Well, I would say that administration and park services are coming out of the same corporate tax levy.
Yeah, that's not the question, Mike.
I know, and I'm not trying to. I'm
Well,
not
then-
trying- At any rate, my assessment was that the activity involved with permitting parks, because there are many details related to permitting parks that are handled by the Parks Department, such as personnel, setup, cleanup. I believe from an organizational standpoint it belonged there as a responsibility of the Parks Department.
Okay, that doesn't answer my question.
There was no cost reduction, or there was no payment of this position coming out of, say, administration's budget as opposed to Parks and Planning. The expense and the responsibility was shifted to Larry's department.
Thank you.
Kim?
Is permitting something that can be done online? Can we offer that service online without having to have someone physically come in?
Well, there's still some administration with scheduling the event or the location where it's gonna be. There's always, again, there's the payment itself that can be done.
You pick up keys.
Right, pick up keys for the locations.
I have a couple more questions. The comment was made about reducing overtime. And can you tell me how much that was?
I don't have the dollar figure, but again, overall, in the overtime, it's not just the administrative assistant, which there is not a lot of overtime, but there's times when it could be used that we can't use at this time. But it's also with the wage, the laborers too, because of the additional services that they gotta provide to the administrative assistant in covering these park permitings and so on.
So this person would take over those duties?
Not the physical aspect of it, but just helping us arrange it, getting it together.
Okay. So the additional tasks that this person would do, if we move beyond permitting, the only thing I saw in here was a comment around nice to have, or how exactly was that phrased? We get to it when we can type of comment. Activities that become lower priority during busy season. Are these the only things that would be new to this position?
No, the other thing that's happened or occurred over the last couple of years is our ability to be more efficient in tracking our man hours. This is consuming quite a bit of time, but I think it really helps us to look at our efficiencies and our inefficiencies. So that's taken quite a bit of the time of the administrative assistants.
So what does that mean, looking at our efficiency?
Okay. The crews go out and they actually do a log on a day-to-day basis, a handwritten log describing where they've been, what they've done, what they've accomplished, how many hours. As you see now, we have a pretty generic report for you on our man hours. That's part of it. And it's retrieved from that information that's given on a daily basis and put into a monthly report. They're switching over to a new system, which is fantastic. It's also going to streamline all our work orders that go in. Now it's a paper trail, now these will be electronic. That's going to help out as well with this position, or has increased some of the responsibilities to these administrative assistants. I wish I could say with technology it's going to help the labor force, but it isn't, because we don't have the funds, again, for iPhones or iPads where they can do their reports or logs and electronically be sent to the administrative assistants. So that time that they're spending with those logs is what they have to put down in the data in this information.
So if we moved more of these things to technology, $24,000 buys a lot of iPads. So if we were to move in that direction instead of in this direction, which is more labor and less technology, what would we gain from that?
Well, again, going back out there, I don't know if you could just buy tough books or iPads for everybody out there. Just in the use in the field, again, there's a lot of them that, a lot of our staff that may not be able to manipulate these systems out in the field, getting through these inspections or their daily logs. So that may not work too well as you're going out in the field and, you know, I gotta be honest with you, they're out there and even a tough book is not gonna last. So we're gonna have broken equipment. Remember, they're out in all weather, you know, inclement weather and everything else.
I have no more questions.
Steve?
So Larry, currently this, let me restate, this new position, if you were to get it, this person's gonna work Tuesday through Saturday, correct?
During the peak season.
Correct.
Mhm.
And really, part of what you're looking for with the permitting is to have a better customer experience,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
And it's your belief that, and it personally my belief too, that we could have all the iPads in the world and you won't get a good customer experience if you don't have the right person working it. That this person's going to be able to not only handle that, but you've got the additional responsibilities that you stated in here that they'll be able to handle as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And the only question I had on Perry was, this is a receptionist administrator type position, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we're trying to keep this desk open as many hours as possible, which is more than 40 hours. The desk is open, correct?
Correct.
So, did you consider using 2 part-time people and job share it so the desk is manned all the time, and you train 2 people to do the same job? You got 2 30-hour employees, probably cost less than, or right around the same amount of money, but now the desk is covered 100% and you got somebody working for you 60 hours instead of 40.
Yeah, we did look into that as well. And again, we have a full-time administrative assistant, and they split that right now with some of these responsibilities. Creating another one, sure, that's one avenue to look at, and we have looked at it, but again, it's the ownership of what we're doing and being that front person. I guess you could say that, that you could do that with the second person in our training, but again, I guess I'm more sold in the fact that we have a great opportunity to be customer front, particularly on Saturdays and so on. I don't know, I can't really answer that.
Well, I kind of like what John is saying, because you build some redundancy in case you lose somebody along the way. I've always been a big believer in that, because the hardest thing to do, one of the most costly things to do is to train somebody.
So you train 2 people, and what if you lose them both?
Well, that's a chance. I get it.
We have a much higher transience level with part-time people than we do full-time people, so I think you can argue it many different ways.
Anybody else? I call the roll.
Commissioner Vanderschaft,
No.
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger,
Yes.
Commissioner Lukey-Hans,
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. Item 4, approving the employee wage increase to be included in the 2013 budget. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
What
Now, why'd you state the amount, right?
I move to approve the 2013 employee wage pool to be increased by 2%.
Second.
Discussion. Kim?
Is this a flat 2% across the board? Is this just a peanut butter spread for all the employees?
No. It's
So
a
what
wage-
will it be?
It's a wage pool, and per department, the increases are merit-based only, and recommendations come from department heads to me. I subsequently review them, and if subsequent to my working it out with the department head based on the recommendations, I bring it to the finance subcommittee for review, and we go from there. So the ultimate effect, bottom line on the budget, is 2%.
What's the max, Mike? We set a max.
You have in the past set a max of, obviously, a floor of 0 based on merit performance, and a maximum, I believe, was double the pool in the past that you have suggested, and certainly that's an acceptable ceiling if the board wishes to consider it.
So we were approving a 2% pool that got distributed based on merit on a scale from 0 to 4%.
So if we wanted to do that again, is that a motion? What do we do with that?
We need to include the raise in the budget.
Move to amend. Move to amend so that no one makes more than 4%
I'll second that.
based on merit.
So you saw in the budget where we got the figures with 1%, 0%, 1%, and 2%. We need to publish the budget with the increase in there, and that's something that we're voting on. That one particular line item had that money included in the budget. Then, Mike, the reason for the oversight by the finance subcommittee is just to make sure that it's, Mike winds up explaining wherever he goes against the department head's recommendation, and make sure everything's done. Yeah,
I amended the second
okay.
motion.
Any other discussion? Mike, take the roll.
Commissioner Vandershaft,
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger,
Yes.
Commissioner Lukian,
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes.
Now you vote on the motion.
That was the motion.
Yeah,
Just
they,
amend the motion.
we're good.
Okay. The next item is on the bond sale, and I thought we wanted to, is Dave Phillips here yet?
Linda is here for the ordinance. Dave is on his way from another agency. If you wanted to bump
Yeah,
both
if
of
you guys
those.
don't mind, I'd like to bump those two to the bottom, and we'll finish up the other items on the agenda, so that Dave's here in case there are any questions on the bond sale.
John, I would suggest moving 5, 6, and 7, because you may have some budget impact on the ordinance.
Okay.
So we would go to 8 at this time.
New business, item 8, a move to appoint Mike Bernard, delegate at the annual business meeting of the Illinois Association of Parks.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's good, because if you didn't do it, I had to.
I just eliminated the middleman.
Item 9, move to approve the bid from Inker Mechanical for the Community Center Cooling Tower Rehabilitation Project. I'd like to see a motion to table that, and I'll give you guys a reason why. The fiscal plant at the community center is 20-plus years old. And the cooling tower is 23 years old, and this is a $50,000 retrofit of a 20-year-old piece of equipment. I talked to Paul prior to the meeting to find out who was recommending, that we do this upgrade versus a replacement, how many years are we gonna get out of the upgrade? And we really haven't had an expert or an engineer just look at that plant and say to us, hey, what you're doing on your maintenance program, spending this kind of money on the cooling tower is the right thing to do, you're gonna get another 20 years out of it. So, since the cooling tower, I'm not recommending that we don't do the work. I would like to see it tabled for a month so that the Buildings and Grounds Committee can have an engineer look at it and say, yeah, this is the right thing to do versus replacing the cooling tower. Yeah, Mark?
Would you also gain efficiency in the equipment, as far as,
That's-
because that's the
I'm
other thing.
going down all those lines,
Right.
and if our chiller's only gonna last another 10 years, are we gonna have a cooling tower that's not gonna be compatible? I think we should just spend the time to look at the plant. The work has to be done before summer, but Paul and I were talking, and he said he'd welcome having somebody come in and look at it too, and so I'd like to just table that for a month. We may come back and say, yeah, let's just approve this bid. We have somebody concurring this is the right thing to do.
I don't have a problem with
But I
that.
hate to spend $50,000 on a piece of equipment that's 23 years old, and not knowing whether that's the way we're gonna wanna go down the road.
Move to table.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So we'll talk about that on Monday, and who we're gonna get to look at. All right, the next item, a motion to approve the baseball, softball equipment bids.
Move to approve the bid for baseball, softball, and equipment and apparel per staff's recommendations.
Second.
Any discussion? My call.
I have a question real quick.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, Kim.
So we do this every year. Is there any benefit to having a multi-year contract with any vendor?
Prices change, uniforms go up, baseballs go up.
So the vendor would not be amenable to having a multi-year?
I'm gonna throw it to Ron Alabas, who's
Okay.
been doing this for 47 years. So, Ron, could you answer that question by chance?
Guess you had to throw that in. Yes, I'm that old. There really, nobody would agree to it because we are not dealing with the manufacturer.
Okay,
We are dealing with a retailer, most of them are retailers and in effect, I guess you maybe wholesale to us. But they don't know what the price is gonna be next year, for instance, for a rolling baseball, a dozen baseballs. So they're not gonna commit beyond what's in the current catalog as to how much they are gonna be charged by rolling for that one dozen baseballs.
okay, thank you.
Okay?
Anybody else? Mike, take the roll, please.
Commissioner Vanderschaft,
Yes,
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger,
Yes.
Commissioner Lukian,
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. Item 11, change orders at Central Athletic Facility. You should have got a memo from the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting, and as you can see from that, we're running into some items at the Central Athletics Center that are costing more money. And a lot of these items haven't been finalized yet. And I can give you examples of some of the items so you'll know what's coming up. When we tore down the existing building where it abutted the new building on the south end, it wasn't clear that they actually had poured the floor and then relaid the face brick on the outside as part of the addition on top of the other floor. So when we pulled it out, we have a void and it's gonna have to be filled in. On the drawings and in preliminary inspections, it looked like the floor was poured up to the existing face brick, but it's not, so we have a problem there. We have a problem on the west side of the building where we took the canopy off. We have a bunch of tar and damaged brick that's behind the canopy. There was nothing on the drawings to repair that. We have an item where we have a drinking fountain in the lobby that when it was installed, there was just a hose put on the back of the drinking fountain and it was run behind the wall and it dumped into a slop sink. The city inspectors noticed that and they want it tied into the sewer system. We have a lot of items that are popped up that are small items. We have an item that we did go get pricing on. We're putting that new stairwell in at the south end of the building for the exit, and we're exiting through a pair of doors. We're gonna put some new hardware on the doors. And when you really look, the frames are all rotted out at the bottom. And spending money to refurbish these doors where the frames are bad, we should probably replace them. So we started putting a list of these items together, and the problem is that we've gone back to the contractor for pricing, and we don't have all the prices as fast as we need them. So one of two things is gonna have to happen here. We're either gonna have to give the Buildings and Grounds Committee the authority to approve some of these changes to get the contractor moving, or we're gonna have to add another meeting a month if you guys wanna be involved on each one of these individual items that's
Look,
popping
we
up.
went down this with the Arrowhead clubhouse, and we determined the same thing. We didn't want to be part of the delay in building in the process. So we authorized a certain limit based on whatever came out of the subcommittee meeting recommendations, and gave them the authority to do so. Look, I can tell you this much, I don't know as much about construction as you do, and I don't want to be making that call, so I'm relying anyway.
I mean, so you know, I've started attending the weekly construction meetings so that the stuff can get brought to me on a weekly basis. But we've only got 2 months to go in this construction project, and we're gonna have to make some decisions rather quickly. The philosophy of the Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee is the same as it was when we decided to go forward with this project. We're gonna do the minimum amount of construction work because the building is operating the way it's been for years. Once we have full control and we're occupying the building, we're gonna take our time and do a study of the building. We're gonna put together a list of recommended upgrades that we wanna do to the building. We're gonna bring it to the board and we're gonna get them approved.
Are we
So-
comfortable just giving them a threshold, of, for change orders? For change order?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. What is that threshold? What do you think is appropriate?
Well, where we're at today, we approved a change order of $30,000 at the last board meeting, okay? We're also pretty certain right now that we're not gonna get the air handling units in time to make that early January 1 completion date, and staff is looking at a more realistic February 1 completion date, but the delivery of the custom air handling units is still up in the air. if we move to a February 1 completion date, we will not be paying the $30,000 change order, so we'll recoup that money back. And we may wind up having the delivery date being even a little longer, and we might have to spend a little money in overtime to make the February, but we should get part of that original $30,000 that we paid to get in early. We probably won't spend it because it's gonna turn out to be impossible to get in by January 1. Other change orders that are out there, there's probably stuff that we're gonna be required to do. We're gonna probably spend at least another $100,000. I would be surprised if we don't. The replacement of these doors is $15,000. The cost of this masonry work is gonna come in, my guess, in the $15,000 range. We've run into some structural revisions that are in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. We opened up a wall and found a column, and the beams were cut off the column. They were just sitting on the wall. So we've run into some different site conditions. Larry put some photos of some of that stuff in last month's board's packet. And so, you know, we do have items. Our philosophy on the Buildings and Grounds Committee is if we don't have to do the work to occupy the building, we're gonna say no, we don't wanna, if they come back and say, hey, John, would you like a price to replace these light fixtures? No, we don't. We'd rather wait till we're in the building. If we wanna replace the light fixtures, we can go out for bid. But we are having items pop up that we are going to have to do.
Well, getting back to kind of expedite the process, and you guys are close to it, you and Phil. My thinking is, hey, look, you know, I think our threshold per item was 15,000. So if everybody's comfortable with that, I'm good with it. Per item, per change order item.
I would suggest making it 20 and having a max cap so that there's no, you know, we say whatever the number is, that we don't, you know, make $15,000 change orders.
Yeah, that's.
Right.
So, I mean, I think the $20,000, given the numbers that we're seeing, because there's a lot of $15,000.
I understand, you've got the guys who approved it, so I mean, that's, yeah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't give me more than 20 is my point.
Right.
And I also would make sure that there's a maximum that you give us before, you know, so we kind of know what the range is, the acceptable.
I think John's saying, you're indicating you think it's gonna be around 100,000, right?
I think that's low.
Should we perhaps consider it
Well-
20,000 an item and a total of 10% of the base bid, which would be in the vicinity of 200,000 as a max?
Phil, do you think 100,000 is too low or too high? What was that?
I think we're gonna exceed 100,000. May not be by a lot.
Yeah, but here's the point, I mean,
Except a lot of the stuff that we've seen to date, I'm recommending we don't accept and we table. So we've got those other, you know, we've seen those numbers in the 20, but you're right, it could be 150,000. What?
but do you think that amounts to, do you think that amounts to
I mean,
exceed
now we're at
$100,000 per time we
Well, no,
meet?
because I think the first 30 we spent, we're getting back. So I think we're break even on that 30. I don't have a problem updating the board where we're at
Why don't we do,
each month, so
why don't we do 100 and then we can revisit it?
if we think it's gonna
We're
be
back in
more.
a month.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, want me back sooner than that? We have an early meeting next month.
This is an early one as well.
So, and we'll keep updating. The Buildings and Grounds Committee is probably gonna meet at least twice a month until we get Hubble done, and I'm going to weekly meetings. So you'll keep getting minutes, which you'll have running total similar to that thing you got. The problem is that every proposal we get, there's 2 or 3 different ways we can do it. Like, we got a proposal for $9,000 for access doors that I thought was ludicrous. We're now pricing something different that.
All right, we put this in a motion,
So-
let's put a motion that threshold of 10,000 per change order limit item, and then with
I think you're gonna need 20, there are gonna be a couple.
what did I say?
10.
Oh, did I say 20? I'm sorry, correct that, 20, with the maximum threshold of $100,000.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
So between now and December, John, you're thinking we're going to reach that 100,000?
No. No, well, I'm thinking before the end of the job. But,
I think at December meeting, we'll be able to have a better handle whether that number 100 may be slightly low, and we may say to you, you know what, you should probably raise it to $1.25 or whatever. But we'll clearly be within 100 by, I mean, we will not be over 100 at December 15th when our board meeting.
Right now, the contractor's tracking 47 issues, which he thinks involves cost, but we've only seen pricing on about 20 of them. And in talking to the architects and engineers, they're disputing some of the items that haven't been submitted yet. So it's really hard to, until we have more, and I've only been to a couple of meetings to see how this is gonna play out. But we have a thing on parking lot lights, and there's 4 different options we're considering, and we don't have all the information to even make a decision off of that. So that's why I'm looking for authority to go ahead once we finally get to where we wanna be, because we're gonna need parking lot lights to open, but we can't get the proposal the way we want it. So it's taking longer than, you know, I can't just give you a number because the numbers I'm getting aren't correct. Okay. All right, so we have a motion to give the Buildings and Grounds Committee the authority to approve change orders up to $20,000 per change order, a max $100,000 on the Hubble project without additional board approval. And the board will get updates every month or every time we have a Buildings and Grounds meeting. That's the motion. We have a second, right, from Ray. Like, do we have a roll call? We can do that. Just voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Okay, now we need to move back to item. We want to do item 5.
Yeah, I think with Dave being here momentarily, and we have Linda Given from Chapman and Cutler here, I'm fairly certain she could field any questions the board may have on either of these issues, and if not, she can talk long enough for Dave to make it here in the next 5 minutes.
Okay, so we're on item 5, and we're looking for a motion to award $1,380,695 in general obligation tax limited bonds to the Illinois Wheaton Bank and Trust.
I'll move to award $1,380,695 in general obligation limited tax park bonds, Series 2012 of the Wheaton Park District, DuPage County, Illinois, to Wheaton Bank and Trust of Wheaton, Illinois, at a net interest rate of 0.74%.
Second.
Discussion. Mike, take the roll.
Commissioner Lukians,
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger.
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Vanderschaff,
No,
President Kelly. Am I
Yes.
missing anybody? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Is that everybody?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 6, ordinance 2012-14, an ordinance providing for the issuance.
Yeah, I'll just make the motion.
Go ahead.
Move to approve ordinance 2012-14, an ordinance providing for the issue of $1,380,695 in general obligation limited tax park bond, Series 2012 of the Wheaton Park District, DuPage County, Illinois, and for the levy of a direct annual tax to pay the principal and interest on said bond.
Second.
Discussion. Phil?
The only thing I would just, I think, John and I talked about this today, I think we need to probably have a discussion in the near future about our use of this bonding and making sure everybody understands why we're doing it, what we're doing, and what our options are. And kind of talked about trying to take that to the finance committee first and then have a workshop or something along those lines. Figure out if this is the way we want to keep operating. But at this point, I'm for this one, but we really probably need to have some discussions about it in detail.
Anybody else? You might take the roll, please.
Commissioner Vanderschaff,
no,
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger,
Yes.
Commissioner Lukians,
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. New business item 7, budget and appropriation ordinance. I need a motion.
Move approval of ordinance 2012-15, making a combined annual budget and appropriation of funds for the Wheaton Park District for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2013 and ending December 31st, 2013.
Second.
Discussion. Yeah.
so around healthcare premiums, can I get a little bit more information about what we plan to do. And so there are obviously some federal regulations that are going to impact us. We have significant cost increases. We should probably start to look at how we structure our rates in general. Mike, can you talk about what we're planning to do about these federal regulations?
I discussed with the finance subcommittee that for fiscal year 2013, we should stay the course as the PPACA, or commonly known as Obamacare, will impact us beginning January 1, 2014. We have a formula that you will see on page 103 and 4 of your budget document, whereby we assess employees who are eligible for health insurance a percentage amount of their gross salary as their contribution for healthcare premiums. It is, especially as it relates to family coverage, I would say that our contribution is somewhat low, and regardless of PPACA becoming the law of the land, we would need to take a look over 13 of how we assess employee contributions, keeping in mind that employee contribution levels are also reflected directly as compensation. So in other words, if we assessed in the future a larger amount of money to be paid by the employer, we would need to be cognizant, it's not saying we couldn't do it, that equals a paid deduction, as it were, for that employee, if it were more than the amount of raise that a particular employee could gain on an annual basis. There's a lot of issues related to Obamacare or PPACA becoming law for the Park District beginning January 1, 2014. The Finance Subcommittee agreed to stay the course this year on our current way of funding. That is our recommendation today. We have been, myself, Rita Schrainer, Diane Hirschberg, and Human Resources, and the department heads have been discussing and gathering our information regarding the new law. I will say that all federal regulatory agencies, or most, who are involved in writing the rules for this aren't done writing the rules, including the IRS, Health and Human Services, and there's another one I'm missing, someone else may know. But we have enough information to begin assessing how we may alter operations for 2014's fiscal year, and staff requests within the first, to the degree the rules are written, by that time we're requesting coordination with the Park Board. I'm suggesting through the Finance Subcommittee, but President Kelly and the Finance Committee might have other ideas, that an administrative team along with a board subcommittee review this issue together and get in front of what our plan will be well in advance of beginning to plan the 2014 fiscal year's budget proposal. So, long story short, we will need to change how we operate come January 1, 2014. Another piece of that is we will actually need to change how we operate earlier than that, depending on the routes that we determine are viable. For instance, and these are just suppositions, we could increase, because we will be picking up, hypothetically, people that would be eligible for health care. We could increase the employees' copay, or their contribution, I should say, not copay, their contribution to their premium. We could get out of providing the health insurance business altogether. And there's several other options that require being fleshed out, but I think from a policymaker and administration standpoint, it needs to be done in concert as opposed to in a report-out fashion. We will prepare as much information as we can prepare and request that the board president assign either a task force or the finance subcommittee to review this matter with us. And our goal would be to have options outlined for board consideration by the end of the first quarter of 2013. So if we need to change how we operate, because how we operate in 13 can impact how we pay in 14, we can do that together.
Oh,
When do we have to pass this budget?
that's the next one.
You may pass this budget next month.
Okay. I'm gonna move the table, because so much of the information I think this finance committee requested is not here. It was supposed to be here a week ago for all of you to review. And given that, I don't feel comfortable that it's fair to any of us at this point. There were a number of issues that we raised in the answered. I guess the first question I have is the 50 cent per 9-hole in this budget, or is the $1 per 9-hole?
I believe, I was a typo, the dollar is in, it was a typo.
Because my memo says 50 cents.
It was, yes.
The other thing, we talked about 4 capital projects that we wanted support for before we put it in this budget. Turf field, Etten Lights, Elliott, and possibly a driving range. I know the driving range is not in here, but we asked for specific information on that. And I'm not for throwing something in the budget just to throw it in the budget. And honestly, we'll leave it at that. So I'm going to tell
What I was gonna say, I talked to Phil about this, I talked to Mike, one of the first years when I got on the board, we did a budget workshop on a Saturday morning before we finalized the budget, and that was when staff made their presentations on the capital projects that were included, and we were able to have some interactive, I think we did at Park Services Building on a Saturday morning. And, you know, I didn't ask for that the last couple of years because I was on the finance committee, so I knew what was going on, so it didn't. But I thought that was really a good idea, and spending time looking through the capital projects over the weekend, you know, I'm wondering, is the board interested, since we can table this budget till next month, is there any interest, and everybody doesn't have to attend, but we could call a workshop on Saturday morning in the next 2 weeks, and we could have staff and the commissioners there, and we could talk about the various capital projects that are in the budget, and any other specific budget questions that you guys have. Mark?
Well, you know, we have done that in the past, and, you know, there's parts of it, I thought some of it was kind of dragged on, but that part I thought was always something that we needed to talk about. One of the things I brought up tonight, when I was looking at the budget, you know, I was looking through arrowheads, and I was wondering why there wasn't anything, after we've discussed it several times, about staining the clubhouse, because the backside, south side of it is getting worn, and it's showing. I mean, to the point that people are asking me questions about it. And I didn't see anything in there. Now, I know they bidded it, but I found out tonight it isn't in there. I think it should be included.
I also, one other thing, I apologize, but the numbers that the finance committee requested in the golf fund are not. It's about $100,000 off what we requested be in this budget. So until we have a discussion about that, I don't feel comfortable.
Because the net effect is what you're talking about.
What we said, golf total fund would be $1 million, 1.1 revenue, and $1 million net, and that's not in here. And I think that's something that staff really should not have changed. That was the recommendation of the committee, that was the direction of the committee. And unless someone's gonna tell me why, or tell Commissioner Fiewiger and myself that it is not gonna be in there and us agree, then I don't think it's appropriate. So I guess I'm a little upset about this whole week and the way we've received information, but the fact that this particular information that you requested is not here, I think puts us all in a very bad spot, and I don't appreciate it.
So what's everybody's opinion on a workshop before the next board
I
meeting?
am not able to attend a workshop on either of the next 2 Saturdays. I am not.
What about a Wednesday night?
Possible. I mean, to me, if someone would answer these questions, because these are the big budget items, I would feel comfortable. Commissioner Fiewiger and myself went through, and if anybody else has questions on the specific budget items, great. We wanted a memo on each of these items. We specifically asked for analysis, and then I would have felt comfortable maybe proceeding. And I'm still comfortable proceeding with those memos, but I haven't seen them, and we requested them 2 or 3 weeks ago.
The problem is we have to pass the budget at the next regular board meeting.
Which is
So
the
if
12th.
we, right,
The 12th.
we have to pass the budget. So if we don't have another meeting and we're all giving Mike suggestions and he's put in stuff, we almost need a meeting just to finalize.
I'll rescind my second.
can- no,
Look,
you
look,
can-
I'm gonna rescind my second, because I'm okay with tabling it. I mean,
You can get, I mean, here, if we had the memos, I mean, there's not that many items that are that large of items. The little ones, we're still gonna vote on all of them anyway. I mean, if anybody wants to attend a meeting, I don't have the time to attend a meeting. I mean, that's why we've, for years, tried to get this done in November, because December is so hard. And I hate tabling this, but I don't have the information that we requested, and I don't feel comfortable.
How many people want to just table without, just get a report back, or?
I'm okay with the report too. I mean, I mean, we all are pretty good at asking questions via email or whatever.
I would just like the opportunity
Yeah,
for,
specific.
on the major capital projects, there's a synthetic turf item. I mean, if nobody's in favor of going with that, I hate to have a $1 million placeholder in the budget that, you know, we may or may not do. I'd certainly like to hear the pitch on the,
And we talked about Lucid, we talked about putting in Lucid, we talked about Atten, we talked about Graph. I mean, we just talked about a bunch of different things, and we were asking for analysis. It's just thrown in the budget, and I don't think that's fair.
I would like to have another, if we're gonna have a workshop meeting, I think that would be good. I think a Wednesday might be better because we've got the holiday coming up.
Yeah, I'm okay with Wednesday or Saturday as long as it's not, whatever, December 1st is bad.
why don't we hold a workshop 2 weeks from Wednesday night? It's not mandatory, if you know, if all your questions are answered, we can talk about the capital projects. If you're not coming to the workshop, you can send me your opinions on which capital projects you'd like to see taken out, or
I would like to, I want to see these memos within the next 7 days.
before
No,
the.
7 days from today.
Okay.
I want to see the memos. I mean, they should have been here 7 days ago.
Like you should be able to do that, right? So,
I'll rescind my motion. If that's appropriate.
so we've moved to table the budget till December 12th,
So moved.
right? Okay, and we have a second on tabling?
Yes, second.
Okay, we don't need, we need a roll? Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, budget's tabled.
So we are meeting, so the next steps are in 7 days, we will all receive answers to the questions from the subcommittee, and then we will reconvene on the 28th.
Yeah, I think we can have a special budget meeting only at Arrowhead on the 28th to answer any other questions. If, Phil, if you can't make it and Mike has everything in it the way you want, great. I'd like to talk about the capital projects that are in the budget, just get a review of why they're in there and, you know, get the feeling from the board whether we want to leave them in there in 2013 or move them out. And then that way, Mike will have the budget, all the corrections will be made, and we'll get a copy of it before the December board meeting. And it ought to get approved at the December board meeting.
And everything we voted on, because we,
Will be in the budget, all the stuff that we voted on tonight, the wage increase, and you can take out all the options, you just put in everything everybody's agreed, you know? So the budget will have everything in, it'll be in its final form with the exception of the explanations that,
With the exception of the capital items that information is.
and the finance
vote on.
committee recommendations to the golf fund, I guess.
Yes.
Right, so you might as well get that in.
I mean, otherwise we shouldn't be meeting if we're not going to put it in the committee.
Right, so, do the committee stuff, and then we'll just be reviewing mostly capital projects at the meeting. Okay? Right. That's everything. Okay. That's it on new business, reports from staff. Mark?
I have one question, it's for Randy. On our wedding, our banquets with the weddings and so forth, for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, how many years are we booked out to? I mean, is it a year and a half? Somebody came to you and wanted, next June, it's not gonna happen, right?
If they're not, excuse me, if they're not set on a Saturday, Saturdays during the heart of the summer is pretty full for 13, but Fridays and Sundays are open.
Okay.
And then if they're looking for a year, 2014, then they should be able to get a pretty good date set.
And how long, we look to adjust our rates for those, I mean, how often we look at that, what we're charging?
We really haven't adjusted them that much in the past. It's the only times they get adjusted is if the food cost starts going up. But we haven't really changed those prices in probably 3 years.
But haven't you seen, I mean, from what I'm hearing, there's a great demand for our facility.
Yes.
Why wouldn't we look at that as possibly a way to increase revenue?
It is something that we have discussed, absolutely.
That's just,
I guess I'd like the Arrowhead subcommittee to discuss that.
could. I'm asking the question now.
Yes, it is something that we have discussed with the department.
Well, maybe you ought to come back with a report, kind of what you think
I think they need to be.
we might get out.
Okay.
All right?
I got a question.
Steve?
I think this goes to Dan. I'm reading the Parks Plus Fitness report, and I know that in October you did for the first time ever, you did 25% off annual memberships for renewals. That's correct, right?
Correct.
Those numbers don't make any sense to me. So if you can help me figure it out, because if I'm comparing October of 2012 to 2011, you're still down in annual memberships. I just can't read the report, so I don't know if this directly had a positive impact or not, because it doesn't compare anything for me. Can you help me out?
I can give you the numbers of everyone who renewed. So again, the annual membership does stay consistent because these people were current members and are current members and were current members. These people took advantage of the sale, so they could be members for the next 16, 13, 20 months. And we did about $80,000 in sales.
Yeah, 90,575. So what percentage of that is compared to last October? Is it greater? How many more did you do this October than last October?
Got that right here, Steve. We did 399 transactions and memberships in October of 2012,
Okay,
98 transactions in October of 2011. Actual sale transactions.
okay. And the difference in dollars was what?
With
You did
that,
90,575 this year. What was last year's?
20,687.
Okay. Did you ever think about maybe doing something like that for a new member, seeing your new members are down?
It rolls out on Black Friday.
Huh?
Rolls out on Black Friday, and it'll go all through the month of, and through December.
And what are your expectations of that?
Hopefully very well. Again, we gotta make a
I hope so too.
Again, we're hitting the marketing campaign, to solicit us, glancers, trib locals, signage, e-blasts. So we're very positive and are gonna stay positive to recruit what would be new members, through the Black Friday sale and all through the end of the year.
Okay. And unless I read through this fast, I didn't see anything on your personal training and stuff. Is that omitted, or did I not read it right?
Personal training, revenue is down. Our percentage in net.
Was that in this thing? I didn't see it. I missed it.
Probably not in the monthly. We provide those more in the weekly.
In the weekly.
Okay.
But our net percentage is maintaining and is exactly the same. Currently sitting at a 24% net profit in personal training.
Okay. I guess you're gonna beat Vanessa tonight, so I'm gonna ask you another question. We had the gentleman here last month talk to us about the reindeer run, and from what I get, it's being hosted by the Lions Club in conjunction with the Wheaton Park District. Fair?
50-50 partnerships, correct.
Perfect. How are we doing with registrations?
260.
260. And the expectation is because it's all online, it's all online registration, so the staff input on that is minimal, right?
Yes, you could say that.
What would I be missing?
No, it has been, we're trained, setting up active, marketing the run, maintaining the active website.
Okay, so you have the active website, and, I had a conversation with Mike, because I went around just to try to look to see how it was being marketed and stuff. And I see some, I don't know if they're 8x11s or 11x14s
Posters.
in some windows. But then I went to I went to sports stores, I went to like MC Mages, I went to running stores in Glen Ellen, and in just different areas that would typically promote a running event. I saw nothing there. And it looks as though, because I was online earlier in the week, that we're relying more based on the web-based advertising for this event.
And word of mouth through the Lions Club, as well as all their affiliates, and Park Plus Fitness as a whole. End of day, we're hoping for 400 runners.
It was 500 last month, I'm down 100.
Currently looking at the current registration, where we're sitting at 260, we're forecasting more realistically about 400 runners with less than a month to go.
Okay. That's all. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Great. Couple things. The state of Illinois aquatic fees, are we not exempt from that? They increased their fees. We got it's part of a staff update.
We receive our permits to operate. DuPage County is one of the, might be the only county that handles pool licensure as opposed to going directly to the state. The applicability of that memo to us is when we do upgrades, the state now wants to pre-authorize our engineering firms and so on and so forth before we can begin.
Okay. All right. Now, I had an opportunity last week, time permitted for me to attend the all staff meeting that you had. It was very well organized, very well run. I appreciate the fact that we're recognizing part-time staff as well as full-time staff. And I was amazed the number of part-time employees who've been with us for 15 and more years. So, I mean, that is indicative of what a good district we have, hopefully how we treat the employees. So, very nicely done, and congratulations to you.
Phil?
I guess I would like to end this emails, board packets at least. I know Commissioner Feeliger and myself are talking, and you've saved printing costs at the Park District, but we end up printing it because it doesn't make any sense. It's too hard to read, even on mobile devices. And I think it also gives staff the ability to kind of throw things in later in the week than they should be, and it's somehow our job.
It gives them an out. It gives them an out.
It gives them an out, not to send everything when they're supposed to be sending everything. And, you know, the stuff on the bond issues, completely understand that that can't be done on time or can't be done early, but the rest of the stuff we received over the past, number of emails we received over the past days, it gives them an out just to say, okay, we'll get that out Tuesday. And it makes it very hard for us to do our job. So unless someone wants it by email only, I personally, and I know Commissioner Feeliger want a hard copy. I know Ray already gets one.
I get one too.
President gets one, Mark Schobel gets one. I don't know where Kim is, but
I prefer the electronic.
but the way it comes through is too hard for me to flip back and forth, and it makes me not do my job anymore.
Well, because part of the problem too is, I also look at electronically, but you have multiple emails and you're going back and forth. You get multiple documents open, it's just,
It's too hard to go back and forth, and then it gives the ability that you can't I'm sitting here with 8 different emails trying to go back and forth and win it just doesn't make any sense.
But I think we can resolve that problem with a tighter deadline, because we used to have that same issue when we got the hard copies. And pieces would be dropped off on Sunday, or pieces would be dropped off on Monday. So the email is not that's not the cause of it.
well, look, I've been on record for as long as I can remember. I like to read the thing on Saturday morning before the next meeting, let it percolate a little bit, and then go back on Monday and read it again. And that's always been my thing, and we've been pretty good about, dropping it off at my house. So, but, lateness is some of the stuff does bother me. I would admit to that.
Yeah, it's been a couple months now, and we have been getting them rather late. And in fact, we called a special meeting because we did not have the information in time last month.
And I apologize for that, and I certainly will redouble efforts to get things out on time. I will say, by no means meant as an excuse. We are accomplishing a significant amount of action on a monthly basis, and I regret and apologize that some things have come up.
Let's not get into that.
I've got some questions.
Go ahead, Tim.
Okay, so we are of course, hitting the end of the year and our leadership is at 98%. I don't know what December is as far as, you know, how much demand we're going to have in that month.
Yeah, I wouldn't think we would have that much demand. I think more of it's gonna be towards the next year, so therefore that money will be put towards 2013.
What is the budget for 2013?
Off the top of my head, in my person, we can get that to you on Friday in the report. We'll just add that in.
Okay, because we're seeing significant increases year over year, and so want to make certain we are,
Wait, we might have an answer.
I think it's
43.
so that's the same as this year then?
I believe so.
Okay.
We can double check for that.
Okay, if you could, please, because like it's, you know, through October here, it says we've got a 32% increase, and so we could run the risk of running out of money in September or something of next year. So,
And we would hope we wouldn't do that. Hopefully that we would get some more sponsorship dollars from Margie, and she's been great at, you know, providing with Central DuPage Hospital or Wheaton Health. That's been great to us.
okay. And then I have a question about refunds. Yeah. Is that you as well? Refunds? Oh, okay. So do we charge a fee for a voluntary cancellation?
For the voluntary, yes, if you're going to, if you want a refund, yes.
Okay, what is that fee?
And that fee is
$5.
$5.
The program is under $50.
Okay. So one of the things when we pay by credit card and you refund by credit card, we're paying another service fee to run that through. Have we thought about trying to push people into?
We do try to do that.
Oh, okay, good. Okay.
Postal credits.
Okay. So is that successful? Or what are?
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Then I have a question for Larry. What is up with the semi trucks in Northside Park? What?
That's
Why
been
is there a
ongoing
semi truck
for
in
years
Northside
and
Park?
years and years. For some reason, they think West Street continues through Northside.
Okay.
And when they arrive up there, there's no real easy turnaround for these semis, so they try to go in that circle there. Oh, and the city has posted signs, we got a sign right there, and they continue to do it.
So who pays for that damage?
Usually their insurance company, the trucker, we
Okay.
go out,
If we catch them.
Yeah, that's the thing.
right. We're pretty good at it now. I mean, we've got these huge boulders. They catch them and they drag them down the road. They have to stop and then we call the police and they get nailed.
Okay, okay, that was a little disconcerting. And then I've got a question for John or Phil. I don't understand what happened with Center Court Solutions.
Nothing.
Well, but they
They
are,
decided they couldn't do the project for their price, so they refused to start work and they asked for their bond back. And we approached our attorney who told their surety company that we expected them to honor because we have a surety bond on the job. So the surety company is following the steps. You have to give them notice, then the surety has to respond. So we're following it. So that project's just been put on hold and won't happen. Because we did not go to a second bidder. We've gone to the surety company and said, hey, your customer doesn't want to do the job and you posted the bond, so you need to get the job done.
Yep.
Most of the time, the surety company will talk the person into doing the job.
okay,
We'll see what happens.
They have a personal guarantee, and if the surety company will hire someone,
They'll lose their
the original
guarantee.
company will lose the guarantee and end up paying a higher number because the second guy is gonna be higher anyway. He's gonna be higher than the hard cost would be. So it comes back, the surety isn't gonna get hurt,
okay.
and we shouldn't either.
Especially a small contract like this, probably the owner of the company probably had a personal guarantee in order to get the bond. Meaning they have to lose so much money first before the surety company.
Who is the surety company?
What?
Who is the surety?
I don't remember.
It was decent size.
But the surety company has already been notified of their refusal to start the job. So we just have to sit and let it play out. We don't want to spend a lot of money on our end on legal fees, so we're kind of just waiting on their surety.
Okay, that's all I had, thank you.
The only thing I had is, it was brought to my attention that when we tabled the coffee with commissioners, we were gonna form a subcommittee to look into doing focus groups. Ray has approached me and offered to be on that subcommittee to investigate what we should be doing, and I'm looking for a volunteer from the board to serve on that committee with Ray.
Personal rating.
I can do that, John?
What? So Ray, you and Kim, Ray will be the chair of that committee since he has. So you and Kim, you can bring something to the board whenever you meet and have something you want to talk to us about. Okay? All right? Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much.